This is Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. We'll make great pets. We'll make great pets.
Hello, kitties. It's a new year. We are going to have a good time together, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Aren't we already having a good time?
We always have a good time.
I know. We have songwriter Sam Hollander of the new book, 21 Hit Wonder.
Yes.
Flopping my way to the top of the chart. Fascinating story. And I don't know. So first off, I don't know even know where to begin. So I was just looking at the records celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Okay.
And it's things like Mind Games and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Aladdin Sane. Almost all of those records, it's shocking. 1973 saw the release of Aladdin Sane and Pin-Ups by David Bowie.
Yes.
For Elton John, Don't Shoot 'Em Only the Piano Player and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
I know.
The first two Springsteen records in 1 year.
I know, it's a good year. So I feel like this is going to be a good year, right?
I think so. There's a 3-week span towards the end of October, early November, that was like Wild the Innocent and the Easy Street Shuffle, Aladdin Sane, Quadrophenia. Like in a row. Can you imagine having to go buy those records like the day they come out?
Yes, I would love to buy those records the day they come out.
But just the fact that like it was that close together.
I know. We need a year like that. We need a year like that in music.
We do. I mean, there was Brothers and Sisters by the Allman Brothers. Leonard Skinner, it's pronounced Leonard Skinnerd, which is, Freebird and all of all 1 year. But my favorite news story that just came out before the new year, we have to call him Sir Brian now. I
saw.
So he has been Brian May from Queen, for those of the people who can't take up on our shorthand. He made the New Year's honors list, so he has been knighted.
So you two can serve in the House of Lords together, right?
Exactly, correctly. As a baron, I believe we can.
Yes, I think so.
So he's already has a doctorate because he is an astrophysicist.
Yes.
Which every band needs an astrophysicist.
Well, Queen did, clearly.
Queen did, but I'm saying other bands, it wouldn't kill, Larry Mullen to crack open a book. That's all I'm saying.
Don't be knocking our biggest fan from Ireland.
I know. I guess
Adam Clayton
should be. That's true. Larry, thank you for listening.
There you go. We used to give him shout outs all the time. And since I'm probably going to see him in May, we need to be able to tell him, you are featured on our show. You, not the rest of the band.
Right,
all the
exactly.
Because we know you are our first listener in Ireland.
Right. And so Brian May, he has the doctorate. He was previously a commander of the British Empire, so he's got a CBE after his name. So his full title will be Sir Brian Harold May, CBE. Not too bad.
It's pretty good.
Mrs. May use the title of Lady May, which is like a Rolling Stone song from the 60s, I feel like.
Yeah, Lady May is definitely...
that's something Anita Pallenberg would be called as she's spinning around in a field somewhere.
1000%.
So I don't know what's more exciting, the 50th anniversary of these records and the promise that perhaps this year will be a similar year.
Well,
if we got half those records, we'd be great. We'd also be completely confused that John Lennon's still putting out new music, but another story.
We would. But I'm most excited about the record that I just got in my collection. But
yes, exactly.
But other than that, I must admit, I probably need to go to therapy about my feelings about Brian May. So I'm going to have to say the albums, because I'm mad at Brian May, because I'm still mad.
His buttocks are fine.
No, I'm not mad about that.
Okay, they've healed.
I'm mad about the film Bohemian Rhapsody, and I'm not over it.
You're still, okay, you're gonna definitely need to.
I know I need to, because I feel that Sacha Baron Cohen needed to play Freddie Mercury.
Right.
And I feel that if you are going to do a biopic,
yes, we're gonna dig up this war horse.
You need to sing the damn music.
I hear you.
If you're gonna win an Oscar.
Fair.
But then I should really be mad at the Academy, because they're the ones that felt that.
Well,
and then denied Taron Egerton, and I love Taron Egerton, so it's really a whole thing. But we can move on from that. And
if we're going to do that, we also have to go back and.
I know.
give Joaquin Phoenix the Oscar for that, for
We
Walk the
should
Line,
have,
and take
because he
away
was
Jamie
amazing.
Foxx's, because he did not.
I know that.
Yes.
And I feel kind of strongly on that.
I mean, I would almost argue in favor of giving Gary Busey an Oscar.
I agree.
Because he sang all of those songs and did a really good job at it.
I agree.
At some point, it turns into a music video, and that's not okay.
And that's not okay.
Yeah.
And
And I would agree with you that greater than less than chart of Taron Egerton and Rami Malek is definitely out of whack.
Yes, I thank you.
So,
and
Lord Brian, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Let's go back to your fellow
please.
Dignitary.
I was just going to say, Lord Brian, we're not mad. We're just disappointed.
Right.
And we would still love to have you on the show. And we promise we won't fill the entire interview talking about this. You want to raise your right hand?
Yes, I will. I will actually vow not to bring it up at all. If you
okay, thank you. Perfect.
I might ask him. I won't even ask him about his hair either.
There you go.
I will avoid his hair.
I would love to hear. I feel like I haven't heard a good hair interview with
Right?
Brian May.
Isn't that weird? So maybe we will ask about his hair, because I'm surprised no one does ask him, because they're afraid, because they think he's so smart because he's an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, if anyone said, to the moon with you, that guy's going to do it.
Right.
Why did you write the book now? Was 21 a good number, or were you just like, were you at 18 for a while being like, I got to get 3 more hits and then this book's coming?
It's a great question. I had the title first, that I was sitting on the title for a while, and, I at least wanted to fulfill the prophetic title and actually bring it home. But, the pandemic offered so many avenues of escape. And, for me, this was a form of catharsis as I was holed up. We had moved across the country, and I'd begun this book probably 2015, but I'm here, I'm in the woods. We moved, to a town that I hadn't seen in 30 years, and, I was reacclimating to a life, and I'm very social, and people were not particularly social at the time. Imagine that, like in the middle of the pandemic. But
right,
I was like, this is craziness. Let's stand outside. So I had a lot of time alone with my thoughts, and I figured maybe it's time to dig deeper into this opus. And I had already crossed the 21 benchmark. In fact, I'd like to, the 21 I would hold up on a couple of different charts, in fact. And so I knew it was etched in stone. I had to do it. And, it was a funny thing where I just, I got a book deal that following summer. And then it was just full speed ahead and just, channeling all my insanity and just putting it on paper and doing it.
It's a really fun read.
Thank you.
It's super conversational. Like it just feels like we're hanging out. Like we're just hanging out.
Well,
and it's the best part.
Well, I've read so many books from people through the years, and people I've known, and there's co-writers and, ghostwriters, et cetera. And I love the books, but sometimes I don't get the person, Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a deal breaker for me on this. Like it just had to be my thing. It had to sort of follow my ADHD. And, I always say, I'm going to take you on some strange adventures, but eventually I'm going to land the plane. Like I get off the runway, but then the plane takes some really weird turns, but I will get there. So that's
the bonus tracks are my favorite part of the whole book. Like they're the greatest. And I have ADHD, so I feel like this just it was all made perfect sense. It was a very clear journey together. So
thank you. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
People always talk about having imposter syndrome and feeling like they don't know what they're doing. And really this show is a walking example of that in many ways. You take it to another level, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, there's
I feel like Larry King over here, like compared to,
Well, as Kanye every day is trademarking something new, I feel like I should have trademarked "fake it till you make it" very early on. It was the mantra at such a young age. And look, I was a weird little kid, and I certainly was artistic, but I never knew how to channel it. And over a 10-year period, or a 15-year period, to be absolutely honest with you, I was literally like just an arrow, just constantly too late, a day late, dollar short to everything I did. But I just needed the universe to catch up with my insanity, and it did. It just took a minute to get there. But it's funny. Like I really dug the book Killing Bono, and I love I related to I forget the man's name. I related to his struggle in terms of, here's the guy. He's in U2 day one, and when they're high school kids, and he got bounced. And then from there, this guy's chasing for the next 10 or 15 years. He's chasing every genre, every scene, every moment in pop culture, just trying to get a foothold. And that was me. And the truth be told is, as I went on, I just think my misses I began to have a defined voice in the misses. Like, at least every record I made might've been shelved, but the truth be told, the writing was consistent throughout. Like, he sort of knew my thing. There were let's say tropes, but there were definitely places I would go to often. And once my craft became more definable, I think it made it more plausible that this could actually work, I don't know if I answered anything you said.
I think so.
Yeah, you did.
There you go. That's this brain.
I mean, it's such an interesting job in the music industry because the trying to sort of tap into what makes this person, this artist, somebody that people like and what they listen to. And is it personality? Is it the voice? Is it like, that's got to be, you talk about an arrow flying around trying to find stuff. You have a moving target on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always taken a couple things worked in my favor, Luke. One, you see what I look like. I'm looking at myself and I'm just horrified when I see this face. I was never meant to be on stage. And I felt that I always aspired to be, when I was a kid, I wanted to be the musical equivalent of John Hughes. And
set all your songs in one high school?
Set everything in Barrington High School or whatever Illinois high school I could sum it up. And what I really wanted to do was, though, I wanted to write those scripts. I love the notion that he wrote Ferris Bueller over like a binged out weekend or whatever. Like, I love the idea that he just fueled, he put it on paper. And that I always looked up to screenwriters. I thought screenwriters were really neat, and I thought songwriters were really neat. People behind the curtain always fascinated me more than artists. And when I fell into, I don't want to say fell, I sort of chased this role and eventually landed the role of professional plus one. It was perfect for me because, truthfully, I'm somebody who I always say I still believe in rock stars as a notion, and I believe in leading men and leading women, and I believe in rock stars. I believe in like people who are, camera ready and the ready for primetime players, and I was not one of them. And because of that, my ego doesn't really enter into the equation as much. I'm really just trying to write their next script to keep them in front of the camera and keep them starring. So that's given me the ability to take many different approaches and sort of actualizing it. And one thing I learned early on was I just wanted to out research everybody on acts that I worked with. I figured, there's so many people competing for these slots that if I came in the room, if I wasn't imposing an artistic sort of will on them, but just basically, it's a trick I learned from Nile Rodgers. He said, pitch the sequel to the movie, and that's what I was doing with every artist I met. So it doesn't matter if it's Ringo or if it's an 18-year-old kid who some labels just signed and I really dig one of the songs. I've already read all their interviews. I've read, I've watched YouTube clips of any interviews. I go to tendencies. I try to find tendencies in the way they speak, themes that they might revisit in interviews, etc. And so at least I'm approaching them in a room from a place of respect, and it's not particularly deferential, but at least I'm saying, okay, I understand, you sort of, does this feel comfortable? This sort of feels like this could be a vibe. This is a natural evolution of what you might say from previous things. And I'm able to reference what they said And I think artists dig that because I took the time, I don't ever walk into a room cold, like in the movies, songwriting in the movies. Paul Williams wrote my foreword to the book, which is just the coolest thing I've ever said, right?
Yeah.
But Paul says something in the front end of it that's so perfect. It's, we see songwriting depicted in movies and television. It's always, oh man, vibe, hit me, man, vibe. I sit down and man, oh, I hit it. It's a job too, and it's a beautiful job. And for me, it's the greatest thing in the world. Inspiration strikes and kumbaya. But the truth of the matter is, preparation. I've always felt that, I might not have been the most talented in the world when I started out, and taking it back to imposter syndrome. But I was delusional enough to believe that I was pretty good, and that I had a defined just a different way of looking at song, because my influences were so spread out. And I was a record nerd, and a lot of songwriters don't come from record nerd places. A lot of them are either people who were prodigious in bands early on, identified early on for this or that. I was a record nerd. I was just like the collector kid at the shop, And so I came from a different place, because I was pulling from records from the 50s all the way, to current. And I think that sort of gave me a unique little gumbo of sound.
Well, on top of that, some of the things you talk about too, and each of the little vignettes of the journeys and one of my favorite moments is sometimes having that knowledge of and gelling so well with someone sometimes backfires too. Like I love when you and Jason Mraz are talking about, the Lido deck on the Love Boat, because that's all I ever want to do is be on the Lido deck of the Love Boat. But I
think you're my soulmate.
I know. I read this and I'm like, I love you. The whole time. I'm like, yes, please.
It's like Paul Williams, Love Boat, it's all on.
Right?
Really?
It all comes together. But it was interesting because it's like the best laid plans can sometimes make you great friends, but if that's not what's gonna make the album, then it's like, but even just like your approach with it is like, well, it made sense. Yeah, that didn't work, but it was great.
I whiffed with Mraz. 20 years ago, I had a shot with the Bangles. I spent 3 days. It had zero success at that point, but I didn't even put this in the book. You're getting bonus coverage.
Yes.
This is This is the Korean bonus track. But I spent 3 days with the Bangles in Susanna Hoff's garage, and I was workshopping them, and I went in pretty hot. I went in, I went in as a fan, because I approach everything as a fan. And I thought back to my high school experience. I thought, well, you know what? I was absolutely in love with Susanna Hoffs, and she should be at the front of everything, and it should be the Susanna Hoff show. And probably not the wisest idea to pitch to the band.
Michael may not have loved that.
Didn't really, it was funny. The silence was deafening, and from that point on, I just remember it was tense. And it's funny because I've gotten to know Vicky Peterson a little bit. She's married to John Cowsill, who plays drums with the Beach Boys. I work with John, and she is lovely, and Cowsill is the greatest. And we've had time, and I just keep reminding her of the fact that I said that, like, I was the guy who was dumb enough to say those words, but in my heart, I do pitch aggressively. And it's maybe the fact that I can't read a room half the time, but I'm really passionate about a vision, but I'm doing it from a place of respect always. And if I whiff, I know I missed. I don't take it personally. With Mraz, I've run into Jason since. I'm sure he'll be amused by the chapter, slightly horrified, but amused. But the truth of the matter is, you know what? I missed. I had it. And the chapter, the only thing that I hope that isn't lost in the chapter is Dave Sluggo Katz's faces, as I've completely ruined his shot of premiering this album. Yes. And the faces that I could never describe the torture and agony and pain that I had inflicted on my partner at the time. So, it was good times.
How long into the process of collaboration do you go, I think we got something here? Not hitting on a song where you're like, we've got a riff, we have something, but just in that back and forth where you're like, I think we're going to work well together. Because you've been certainly doing this long enough. I
can tell you if the first 45 minutes or so, 30 to 45 minutes of small talk, and that's the speed dating element of it, I'm an Aries, I'm a Virgo, blah, blah, you get past that. The moment we dig in. Within an hour, I know if it's a match made in heaven or if I need to end the day as quickly as possible. And if I need to like fake an Achilles, torn Achilles, heel injury, weird, shoulder spasms. And I do that. It comes from a place of caring for both of us. Like, I don't want to put inflict torture on anybody. At the same time, you know, it works both ways. You know, you feel the energy. I can name on, you know, if I've written with 500 acts, I'd say probably 5 fingers. There were probably acts that survived hour 1 of that were a fraught sort of hour where it just felt like it wasn't going to connect and actually materialized into something worthwhile. Probably 5 times. The bulk of it, if the energy isn't right and we're not connecting, like somebody said this to me, if the vibrations aren't there, then it doesn't happen. It's weird. It doesn't, we might feign enthusiasm and maybe we get to the end of the day. It's like, yeah, it worked out. The song always gets thrown out. Never sees the light of day. Those are the ones they never do. You really have to have a connection that transcends, and on the good days you do. You really do. Quickly.
Was there ever anyone where it was, not to go back to like the dating reference, but where like everything just gelled, but you just didn't add chemistry in bed?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely. Absolutely. The 5 Seconds of Summer guys, pop band, really great guys. They were right up my lane. They were fans. They got a record deal, I believe, covering one of my songs. You know, everything was there on paper where I felt like this could be a project I could put my stamp on and really define it. And I wrote, I have to say, 8 songs with these guys, and it just never, ever worked. I never made a record, which is ego deflating. But the truth is, I don't know why. It just wasn't meant to be, you know? Yeah. They're great guys. They're like some of the nicest kids I met in LA. It's just, sometimes it doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
Is it harder for you if you really love that artist's work? Like you mentioned the Bangles and just blowing that, but like, how do you not bring your Beatles scrapbook in when you meet Ringo? Right. And be like, here's me with the wig, and here's my Sgt. Pepper outfit. And
I owe my mom, and I think that stems back from my childhood. You know, I had a very strange upbringing because my mom had this very tight relationship with Andy Warhol, and so I spent a lot of time around Andy Warhol as a little kid, and then around other peripheral figures of that era and that time. So even though we were living in the suburbs, I was still exposed to some incredible characters. I mean, I remember Frida Payne coming over to my house on a date with like a friend of my mom's one day, and Lindsay Wagner I crossed with at some point in the book as well. And so because of that, for some reason, I was always pretty at ease with celebrity as a concept and fame as a concept. And that really took shape with a relationship with John Cusack and Jeremy Piven, all these guys in my 20s who let me be the +1 in their entourage. And by the end of coming out of that was like an education in of itself. And I came out of that and I was never flustered by an artist. And to this date, I don't think I've ever really been flustered. So although going to Ringo's house is some trippy shit, I'm not going to lie to you. It's weird and insane. And just, you know, it is, the whole thing is a pinch me thing. And I read interviews and he calls me his friend and I'm just like, wow, wacky. But the flip side is I am able to dial back fandom of that extent, the true me that's like really stoked, and just, you know, really focus on the task at hand is really just write something epic for him. And, you know, the only person, you know, I was a little weird with Huey Lewis, as I said. I was a little weird with Michael McDonald backstage. I hung out with Michael McDonald, but I made him uncomfortable. It happens. You know?
I would have lose my mind if I met Huey Lewis. My mind. Listen
to me. Tears are coming down my face and he's looking at me and he holds me tight and we're doing these photos. And I said, this is just so special for me. You don't know how special this is. And I think I can't tell if he thinks I'm mocking him or not. And then some handler is whispering in his ear, like, no, he's really serious. He's like your biggest fan. So
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. The pictures in the book are great too. And yeah, we were fortunate enough and were able to read it digitally, but I had to like zoom in on it because they're great. Like you can see those moments with
there's a lot of joy.
Tons of people. There's so many. Yes.
Zoom in wider, catch that tear. They're the third tier down.
Yes. I have to see the tear. It's amazing. Of all of your babies.
Yeah.
Do you have one that just stands out as like, this was the moment, this was the one where this is it?
It changes every day in every interview because I'm completely full of shit, but I would say
well, that's how you give to love all of them.
Yes. No, you know what, if I'm gonna be honest with you, there were 3 or 4 pivotal ones because they were all they shifted the trajectory at different times. You know what I mean? Like The Great Escape by Boy. Obviously, you start with the Carole King song because it's the first legitimized thing that I ever did. I did it with the greatest writer in history. There's a Boys Like Girls song, Great Escape, and that was the first real top 10 pop hit that I wrote. It was coming off of I produced Gym Class Heroes record, and Cupid's Chokehold went to #1, so I had a #1 hit there. But Great Escape was something special because it really was birthed out of, just this really sort of, we found this kid and we just developed it. And after all the years of failing developing these things, we finally got one right.
Yes.
And having that on top of the Gym Class record, that brought it. But, there are songs with Train that I think shifted me in the right direction and I felt like really legitimized me as a writer. And then the one that at the end of the day, I don't think it's High Hopes as much as it's Hand Clap, because Hand Clap was a moment that I think for the first time people began to view the totality of my work and finally began to look back and think, oh my God, wait, this guy's been doing this like for a long time consistently and it almost erased the first 15 years. And thankfully I'm here to reawaken the first 15 years and rip off all the band-aids and just do it all at once.
Yeah, you have notoriously written wow. Now I've lost
let me tell you something. My wrotings are my favorites.
Perfect. Well, you have written some legendary earworms.
Yes. Thank you.
Do you find yourself where they permeate your brain as much as the rest of us, where you're like,
yeah, you know why? A lot of it's based on who I collaborate with, etc. So it's a combination. When I write with Fitz is the master of the earworm. So people don't understand, like every Fitz in the Tantrums song, all the ear candy that you're hearing are these Fitz ideas that are so brilliantly executed. His melodic sense is incredible. For me, at the end of the day, I like a jingle. I grew up in an era of jingles on television. Steve Carmen lived in my town and I met him once in my life. He spoke at my high school once, and I should have put that in the book. I feel like a jerk for neglecting it, but he did speak. And he wrote the I Love New York theme. I love New York. And to me, that's better than it. Yeah, it's probably one of the greatest singles of the 70s. There's like 10 disco versions of them. I own all the vinyl of all of them, and it just has the greatest verse and hit and I grew up liking really hooky stuff, and the truth be told is I'm shameless with it because it's just how my ears are wired. I grew up, the songs, my favorite song of all time is probably Moonlight Feels Right by Starbucks, and I can sing the entire sort of the vibe solo that's like literally 64 bars in a pop song. But I grew up loving sort of song and that has that organic and all these sort of I love ear candy, and it's to me how I hear music. I've never it's hard for me to listen to stuff that's sort of neutral, and moody. I like up tempo stuff. My daughter, as she was getting deeper into music and really, she's an aspiring writer at this age and she's 16, but it's funny. I gave her a playlist of 80s stuff when Stranger Things came out. She really, dug deep in that first year, and I wanted to turn her on to my 80s. Right. And I realized that every song was between 120 and 200 beats per minute. Every single song is pumping. and it's, you know, it's Husker Du and it's REM and it's the Smiths and it's this and that, blah, 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 Echo and the Bunnymen, blah, blah, blah. But it's always the up tempos. It's not the ballads. It's like, I'm an up tempo guy. I've had 2 ballads work in my life, and one was Marry Me with Train, and I really did nothing, you know, got a free ride. It's great. I wrote a song with Pat Monahan that I really liked. He threw it out. He rewrote it as Marry Me. It was a big hit. And I get my name like connected to it, which is the greatest thing ever, but he's the genius. That isn't me. And then I wrote the song When You Love Someone with James T.W., which I did write. And I was going through a lot at the time, and it was just like this weird thing where it connected to the one moment that I was very happy to write something really morose and sad. And in general, I like music that is so up tempo and pounding. It's just, that's how I hear my art. So hooky, up tempo. I connected you, right? Did we bring it home?
Yes, it's perfect. Yes. So what did you think of the mixtape?
I don't know if she's ever even listened to it, to be absolutely honest with you. Because she's of that age that, you know, she can't, you know, she must have, but, you know, truthfully, it's funny because her tastes are actually, and I don't know if this is generational, but her tastes lie between 70 and 79 and nothing after. So the 80s don't, even though Stranger Things is the greatest thing she's ever seen in her life, and everything Stranger Things musically, it's ELO, it's Joni Mitchell, it's Billy Joel, it's, you know, it's yacht rock, and it's a bonding thing. And neither of us listen to it with any irony attached. We really just love it. So
there should be no irony attached. It's amazing.
Yes, it warms my soul.
That's fantastic.
My frigid soul.
Well, I was wondering, you were saying, like, I was going to ask how music and songwriting has changed as far as just the things that, you know, will resonate with an audience. And it sounds like the answer is it doesn't.
You know, songwriting, it doesn't matter what the medium is, right? So if the medium's TikTok right now, and that's what dominates this industry, and that's what people are chasing, etc. A great song is a great song, and it will stand the test of time. You know, I wrote this song with this kid Banners, and we wrote this in 2017. And, you know, my friend at the label had signed it, gets blown out, and they decide not to go to radio with the song, and it sits in 2017. 2018, it has a moment on American Idol where it's like the theme to a season on Idol, and Island Records, the label, decided not to go to radio with it then and capitalize on that. Fine. 2019, it ends up getting a Netflix trailer to a TV show or something, some Netflix movie, and the numbers start to spike. So it goes from 10 million streams to like 30 million streams. That's not enough to excite the label. It sits. 2021, some kid makes a video on TikTok with this song. Now, this song is a strummy, up-tempo, pounding, stomping song with acoustics, with a British vocalist, and it's very emotive, but it's very stompy and up-tempo. There are no hip-hop drums, trap beats, you know, it's just like a romantic up-tempo number. The streams are at 600 million now. It's like, you know, it had its TikTok moment. I don't know what the video was. I would envision it's like some guy making cow noises to it, and someone did a cow dance or something, and it was background noise, but it just, that's the new world we live in. So it's hard to articulate what a timeless record is. I just think it's in the craft. I think, you know, I'd like to believe that a song that is a quote unquote evergreen, it's in the craft. And, you know, truthfully, if I listen to stuff that over the past 10 years that's been recurrent and like that really lives on, there's like a craftsmanship to it that's timeless. It's not, you know, and that could be Old Town Road all the way to Gautier, all the way to High Hopes. I mean, these are songs that I think just the craft was really on. And, you know, if you're lucky enough to get one, it's pretty great.
Turn it up.
21 Hit Wonder, Flopping My Way to the Top of the Charts by Sam Hollander is available right now wherever you get your books. For more information to see what Sam has been up to, check out his website, samhollandersongs.com.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website at rockandrollgradschool.com, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hedquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thank you, good night, and may all your favorite bands stay together.
You don't even know. I can make your hands clap. Said I can make your hands clap. Every night when the stars come out.